business organization. 8.1, I'm going to start with a little bit of vocab. There's a word bank there at the bottom, 3 blanks. Use your pencil. Read the definitions. Where do you think sole proprietorship, partnership, and capital go? Come on, ma'am. Mark, set, go. Some pretty good hints in here for these kind of ridiculously simple. Still bears talking about those. All right. How confident are you feeling about one of them? Can you give me one that you feel pretty confident about, Kate?
The first one's capital.
Perfect, yeah. So the money used to start or expand a business is the capital. So to start or expand, if you're starting a business, some of the things that you'd be paying for, typically a small business, I don't know, maybe big businesses too. I don't know how long they take to become profitable, but if you're starting a business, not only do you need to have enough money to pay for all of your supplies, all of the tangible things that you need inside the business, like let's say it's a restaurant opening. If you're a specialized restaurant, you know, you're going to need appliances or normal things, stoves, big refrigerators, maybe freezers, depending on what you're doing, there may be other appliances in there you need, right? But also everything you need to furnish that business, everything you need to decorate that business, to-go things, marketing, right? Rent, insurance, workers' comp, there's all these expenses that you have to pay before you ever open your business. Not only that, especially a small business, it takes a long time for them to become profitable. You want to make sure you borrow or you invest enough money or have enough money to pay, let's say, rent, utilities, insurance, for at least 6 months to a year. There's a lot of things that you're going to use that capital for. Once you open a business, at some point maybe you want to redecorate or whatever, and that's when you put in more capital. Do you have a question, Cynthia?
No, the next one, please.
Okay, what's the next one?
I'm going to say the word, but you know that's going to something else.
You don't want to say the word? Okay. So a business owned by entirely one person, Cynthia says, is a sole proprietorship. Yep, proprietorship. So proprietorship is a business. So one thing, so owned by one person. A business owned by a group of people called partners is a partnership. All right, 3 more. Fill in blank. Public corporation, and shareholders. So these are, those have to do with a different kind of business, different kind of organization of a business. Madeline? You have your hand ready? Oh, okay. Anybody feel particularly confident about one of the words? Layla? Shareholders, right? So a corporation is a business that has been divided up into parts called shares, and they sell those shares or parts of the business to people as capital. So shareholders, the owners of the corporation. What do you think, Lawson? Can you give me one of the other two?
Public corporation.
Public corporation. So anyone can purchase stock. Think of your social media page, a public Instagram page, anyone can see it. A public corporation, anyone can purchase shares or stock. Shares and stock are the same thing, basically. And the last one will be corporation, and it's a broad term for a business that is split into these shares. It can be owned by one person or a group of people. Each owner or shareholder owns a portion of the organization represented by shares of stock. So there's another one called a private corporation, and that means not everyone can buy shares in the stock. They only let certain people do that. All right. So we're going to use our can you find a percent review right here. Taylor owns 2/3 of a partnership. What percent of the partnership does she own? So we are going to find a percent. We are going to find a percent based on the fraction, right? So a percent is what part of 100, right? Percent is based on an entire amount being a 100. So it's part of our whole times 100 gives us our percent. So if Taylor owns 2/3 of a partnership, so a couple ways we can do it, but we can grab our calculator. 2 divided by 3. And that's going to give us this repeating decimal. We're going to multiply it by 100. Multiply this by 100. And then we're going to round. All right. So one of the other things you need to be paying attention to today is when do you round a percent? Here it doesn't tell you what to round to, but it says repeating decimal. We got to round somewhere. So they rounded to the 10th place, but take note, you round after you turn it into a percent. So if I turn this into a percent, I'd multiply by 100. My decimal point would go here, right? 66.66666, right? So they rounded to the 10th place. Remember, I got a reminder on the board. What is the 10th place? It's that first place. Look to the right, that number is greater than 5, so we're going to round that up to 66.7%. So we're going to round after you convert to a percent. So let's add that in our notes. We're going to round after it's converted to a percent. So if Andy owns 5/7 of a partnership, what percentage of the partnership does she own? Well, same thing. So I did 2 divided by 3 here. Remember there is a fraction button on your calculator? You can use that one. There's a fraction button in the equation editor on your decimal calculator. I don't really care how you convert that fraction to a decimal, which strategy you use on which device. Dividing always works. A fraction is just a division problem. It's always top divided by bottom. Top divided by bottom is going to give us 0.014. Would somebody do that for me? Because it's not a terminating decimal. We're going to start grabbing our calculators again. FYI, when you come in, I see a lot of desks with no calculator on them. Kalani, will you divide 5 divided by 7 for me? All right, 285 is all I need. Thank you so much. So 285. All right, that's too hard to read. We're going to redo that. So 285, and it goes on and on and on and on, right? So at this point, we're going to take that and we're going to multiply by 100 before we round. So if we round to the 10th place, 0.0714 2 is the number we're looking at. That would be the number to the right, so we round down to 71.4%. Divide, multiply by 100, add the percent symbol. Any questions? We should be able to find the percent of a number. We should also be able to give the percent that a part represents. And that's what we did here. Y'all caught up with me? Okay. Elisa owns 20% of the Grudman Corporation. The rest of the shares are owned equally by the remaining 6 shareholders. What percent of the corporation does each of the other shareholders own? Anybody have an idea how to find the answer? What do you think, Mason?
Subtract 20 from 100, 72 divided by 6.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself. So 100% minus 28%, because remember 100% represents the entire amount of something we're talking about. And that leaves 72% to divide between the other 6 shareholders. That's why Mason said we divide by 6. And now we know that each of the other shareholders owns 12% of the company. Elisa owns the greater share of the corporation. So she put in the most money. Sometimes, you know, the share you own in a company. So when we talk about what part of the company or corporation you own, it's given a numerical value, usually a dollar value. Usually it's related directly to the amount of money you invested in that company. Sometimes, let's say I'm going to open a restaurant and I know nothing about the kitchen. But I like the idea of owning a restaurant, bar, sports place, or whatever, right? But I have some money, but I don't really have the expertise. So right now, I can put all the money in, but it doesn't do me any good to have all the money if I don't know how to run the place. So maybe I offer Lawson a quarter of the company, and then he runs the kitchen, helps me set up the whole thing. So his investment is his expertise. Does that make sense to everyone? Right now, for our purposes, we're just talking about the money value, but there is a numerical value that can be attached to that kind of investment as well. Okay? So we do value the company by dollars. So the total number of shares of stock in the Bullis Corporation is 650,000. Mike owns 12% of the shares. How many shares of the company stock does he own? This is simply finding 12% of a number. As you're sit up, buddy, it'll be easier to stay awake. 12% of 650,000 is just 650,000 times 0.12, or 650,000 times 12. Hit the percent button on any calculator or decimal calculator. So 12% of 650,000 shares is 78,000 shares. Now, that is the number of shares she owns. It's not money. Don't put a dollar sign by it. Okay? You should put shares by it. It's like a unit of measure and all the other math you've ever worked on. If it's in centimeters, and your answer needs to be in centimeters. If the length is in miles, then your answer should be in miles, right? This is not money. This is the number of shares. If Ryan owns 3/8 of a floral shop with $76,000, what is the value of Ryan's share of the business? All right, 3/8. That's a fraction, right? All we're going to do is take that 3/8 and multiply it by 76%. Now, we are trying to find what portion of the business he owns, so you might think you want to convert it to a percent first. Just don't do that, because sometimes that decimal is going to be a repeating decimal. You're not going to get an exact answer or as close of an answer if you convert it to a percent first. So 3/8 of $76,000 is just 3/8 times 76,000. You can use the division there, 3 divided by 8 times 76,000. You could use the equation editor on Desmos, use the little fraction tool, times $76,000. However you do it, you're multiplying that fraction by 76,000 and you would get 28,500. And hopefully this makes sense to you. 3/8 is where we get this fraction. Any questions? Okay. Michelle invests $15,000 in a partnership that has 4 other partners. The total investment of all partners is $240,000. What part of the business does Michelle own? What do you think? Can you tell me how to find what percent of the business Michelle owns? So now we are going to do a percent here. We could do a fraction of it as well. Typically we're going to do a percent. I don't know what 3/8 is. Right? If somebody tells me they own 3/8 of a business, I know it's a little less than half because 4/8 is half. But I prefer they gave me that percentage, right? That makes more sense to me. We work in percentages in our economy, and so that's what I would prefer here. So to ask what part, that's typically what we're going to do. What do you think? Tyler, how do you think we could find what part of the business Michelle owns?
Divide.
Yep. What are we going to divide? What's the whole business?
240,000.
What's Michelle's part?
18,000.
So if you remember, it's always part divided by whole, right? Part divided by whole. So we're looking at Michelle's part divided by the total investment. So that's 15,000 divided by 240,000. That decimal is a terminating decimal, 0.0625. We're going to multiply that by 100 and add a percent symbol. So $15,000 sounds like a lot. 6.25% doesn't sound like a lot, right? But it's in comparison to that whole $240,000. We don't know what part the other 4 partners own, but they didn't ask us that. Okay. Bert and Ernie. Anybody watch Sesame Street before? A lot of kids haven't. Bert and Ernie's been around a long time. Sesame Street was around when I was a kid. Oh, Malin. Malin, you have the same problem I have. Everybody knows exactly what you're thinking to work on your poker face. So Bert and Ernie are partners in a local grocery store. They invested in the ratio of 3 to 5. That's how we read this. You should have covered ratios probably when you were in 7th grade. 3 to 5 is how we read that, 3:5. So, which part does Bert own? Which part does Ernie own? Well, it's in order. If Bert is first, Bert goes with the first number. Ernie's second, so Ernie goes with the second number. How many parts of the business are there? If Ernie owns 3 parts, Bert owns 3 parts and Ernie owns 5 parts. How many parts of the business have they split it into? 8 parts. So that's important because Bert does not own 3/5, right? There are 8 total parts, so when you're talking about a ratio like this, you need to remember that. Okay? So now, what percentage? Well, we're going to convert their parts to fractions and then convert those to a percent. So 3 out of 8 is Bernie's part. 5 out of 8 is, did I say Bernie? I just turned them both into the same person. Bert's part is 3 out of 8. Ernie's part is 5 out of 8. Those are the fractions that represent their part. 3 divided by 8, 0.375. 5 divided by 8, 0.625. Multiply them both by 100 and add a percent sign to convert them to percent. So 37.5%, 62.5%. If you're not rounding, those percentages should add up to equal exactly 100%. We didn't round anything there, so they should be exact. Any questions? Okay. What if there's more than 2 partners? 3 partners are investing a total of $900,000 to open a garden and landscaping store. Their investments are in the ratio of 2 to 3 to 5. So that's how that's read, 2 to 3 to 5. Based on this ratio, how much does each partner invest? We don't know anybody's name, so we're going to go with partner 1, partner 2, partner 3. How many parts did they divide this business into? 10, right? So there's 10 parts. So the first partner has 2 parts, the second partner has 3 parts, and the third partner has 5 parts. And then we're just going to create a ratio or fraction to represent the part of the whole, part divided by whole, that each partner owns. 2 is their part, 10 is for partner 1, 10 is the whole. So the whole is going to be the same for all of them. The part is the different number. So for partner number 1, 2 out of 10, or 2/10 times 900,000. The whole investment is 900,000. So their part is found by taking 2/10 times 900,000. That would be $180,000. There's only 3 partners. All of these decimals are terminating. When we get to the end, all 3 amounts should equal that total investment of $900,000. Partner 2, they own 3 out of the 10 parts. Still gets multiplied by the total investment. And that investment would be $270,000. Third partner owns 5 out of 10, 50% of 900,000 is 450,000. Any questions? All caught up with me? Sincere, will you take those headphones back off, buddy? Put them in your backpack for me this time. Thank you. Ezra, will you pick your head up? Thank you so much. Last one. Julie and Kristen are the partners in a local sporting goods shop. They needed $51,000 to start the business, and they invest in the ratio 5 to 12. So that means 5 parts to 12 parts, right? So how many total parts did they split the business into, Zariah?
17.
You are not Zariah. There's 5 to 12. So one of them owns 5 parts, one of them owns 12 parts. So how many total parts are there? Yes, 17 parts. All right, so how do we know who owns 5 and who owns 12? Do you remember, Savannah? So Julie comes first, so her number's first. That's all. Kristen's comes second, so it's almost like this is the colon, and is the colon, right? So Julie's first, her ratio is first. If they don't tell you, that's how it works. What percent of the company is owned by Kristen? Round to the nearest tenth. And we're going to round after we convert it to a percent. What fraction will we use for Kristen? Sincere, would you like the answer? What fraction are we going to use for Kristen's percent of the company to find that?
Talking to me?
Mhm.
I'm not gonna come to we get right.
A.
Hey.
It says Ford. What percent of the company is owned by Kristen? I asked what fraction will we use to find the percent?
12 over 17.
12 over 17, very good. Divide it, and we're going to get this decimal or some version. I think that's not a terminating one. Multiply by 100, and we're going to round to the 10th place after we multiply by 100. So once we multiply by 100, this decimal point is going to be right here. So the 10th place would be here. Look to the right. So that number is greater than 5. So this goes up to 6, and we add our percent symbol. We had to round. That means this is not exact, right? We're going to do the same thing with Julie's. What fraction will we use for Julie's, Miana? Yeah, 5/17. We're going to divide that to get a decimal. I don't think this is the exact decimal, but multiply by 100. If we multiply by 100, we're going to have 29.41 and some other things probably. But we're rounding to the 10th place, so that rounds to 29.4%. If they ask you for a percent, don't forget to put the percent. Might be different on an online test. But now, how much money did each invest? You're going to be tempted to use the percent. But remember what I said, we just rounded those percents. So we don't want to use the percent. We want to use the fraction. The fraction is an exact proportion, exact portion of the business. So for Kristen, we're going to go back to that 12/17 fraction, and we're going to multiply it by the total investment they need. So Kristen invested $36,000. That's her investment in the business. We're going to go back to Julie's fraction, 5/17. We're going to multiply that by 51,000. And now, we actually could just subtract the 36,000 from 51,000, right? If we're feeling confident about our math. But 5/17 times 51,000 is 15,000. If we add these two together, they should be the total investment. Okay? Let me know if I need to go back to any of the slides. If not, scan and submit them. Yep. Scan and submit them, and then get started on your worksheet, unless you didn't finish your PowerPoint from yesterday and then do that.